Starting in 2024, Triple H Racing Engineering has signed current Aerobus Motorsport driver Will Brown to a 3-year contract. Brown will join Red Bull Ampol Racing next year as Brock Feeney's teammate in the Repco Supercar Championship. Now, with Brown taking over this seat, it means Shane van Gisbergen has been officially released from his contract next year to pursue his NASCAR ambitions in 2024. Team principal Jamie Whincup said, as he's made it clear from the very start, that Triple Eight would support SVG if he decided to move on from supercars to showcase his talents overseas. Whincup also said Brown's been on their radar for many years since he drove one of their former cars in the Dunlop Super 2 series, and believes that he's a good fit for their team culture. The photo courtesy there of Red Bull Ampol Racing. Big news as always, and considering the breakout year he's having with Aerobus and getting a top-tier ride for 2024 and beyond, can Brown live up to the very high expectations of replacing one of the greatest drivers in supercar history?
Oh, boys, I've been ready and willing to talk about this since the news broke that this might be happening. Thanks to Conor O'Brien at V8 Sleuth last Monday. Will Brown to Triple Eight. Massive news. We've talked verbatim about SVG for weeks, and that is happening in some shape or form, and we'll talk about it when we get some more news about it. But Brown moving, it's great for that team because they've now got Brock Feeney, who's about to be completing his second year, and Will Brown, who will be completing his third year, I think. So they're going to have a young team now down there. They've had stalwarts for a long time. It was all Whincup and Lowndes for a long, long time there through the Vodafone days. And then they brought SVG in with the third car. And yeah, his success has been well documented. But here comes this little upstart boy from the country, same place as Will Power is from, Toowoomba, Will Brown. I'm just so intrigued to see how this plays out on track from now until the end of the season, starting this weekend at the Bend, down outside of Adelaide, where the next round is this weekend, because now we go into the weekend and the rest of the season with 2 Aerobuses and 2 Red Bull cars fighting for the championship, Kostecki and Brown at Aerobus, and SVG and Brock Feeney at Triple Eight, Red Bull. But now Will Brown is going to the other side. So is it Kostecki versus the world now for the championship? Because Will Brown's not going to get any preferential treatment from Barry Ryan and the Coca-Cola Aerobus team. So we're going to see some pit priority being shuffled, especially when you get to the endurance races at Sandown and Bathurst coming up. But great for Will. He's an exceptional talent. And those two, the social media content, I feel like, coming out of Triple Eight Red Bull Ampol Racing next year with Willie B or Swill, as he's known amongst the paddock, and Brock Feeney, is going to be really, really good. Happy for Will. Sounds like they wanted him. He was their first pick. What happens at Aerobus is going to be interesting to see. There's been rumours about who will fill Brown's seat for next year. Thomas Randall in the mix, Scott Pye, Nick Percat, and Jack LeBrock, who does actually now seem to be the number one favourite to move there. He won the Super 2 championship with that team a few years ago before making the move up to the big time with Tickford. So it looks like a reunion potentially for JLB at Erebus. But great to see this has finally been announced and we can get to talk about it properly. And Will Brown is on his way to Triple Eight.
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest opportunity of Will Brown's career. And considering what we've seen this season, like Josh mentioned, he's having a breakout year at Erebus, winning multiple races, you know, that has a shot to win the championship this year. And considering the form that Erebus has in 2023, you know, it would make you think, why would Will Brown want to move on? Because Erebus right now is one of the top teams in supercars, you know, taking the fight to Triple Eight. And because it seems like Triple Eight, you know, in the last few years, especially since Scott McLaughlin left for IndyCar, it really seems like, you know, Dick Johnson Racing has taken a step back, and then Triple Eight's been that top team. And this year, although they're still one of the top teams in supercars, it's still, you know, seems like the team is still struggling to get to grips with the Gen 3 car. And, you know, if you listen to Shane van Gisbergen, he'll tell you, you know, how the Gen 3 is going, and the team still needs to figure out some things there. And it's too soon to say how Will Brown's career move will be. Will this be the right move to go to Triple Eight, or could it potentially be the wrong move? But anyhow, that driver lineup for Triple Eight is really scary now. Brock Feeney, a guy who many believe is going to be a multi-time supercar champion at some point. He's really coming into his own. And now you got Will Brown, who's, the best is yet to come for him. I think you have to be really excited if you're AAA. If there's one guy you can get to replace Shane van Gisbergen in your driver lineup, I think this is certainly the best guy they could have potentially gotten out there on the market. And I think Will Brown is certainly capable of living up to the high expectations of replacing SVG. As you said, Josh, one of the greatest drivers we've seen in the history of the Supercars Championship.